Hello there, feel welcome to the channel. Today we are going to do something quite different. I'm not used to do this, but what I will do, I will choose a topic to talk about here, and then I will try to accomplish the goal of speaking for some time in this topic, and then I will try to do my best, but probably I will find many gaps into my English. I've realized that I do not practice speaking properly. It's um, very complicated to me to do so, but I want to start. So I'm trying to choose a topic here which isn't very easy. Um, but I think I will choose the topic describe the book that you recently read. Well, first, let me choose the book here. Okay, I will talk about Aesop Fables, which is a book that I have already talked about here quite a lot. It is a book by Aesop, which is the author of it, and it is a classic, right? Well, people aren't sure whether Aesop was actually a person who lived, or rather a legendary character that was said to have written the stories that we know about. Um, and indeed, it's hard to to be sure whether he was a person or not, because he lived or not lived many years ago. The stories that we know about, that are addressed as from being from Aesop, they are quite old. They date back to ancient Greece, probably 300 years, more than 300 years actually. Let me quickly read here. Um, yes, 600 years, 600 years before Christ. So it is quite a long time already, and thus it's very hard to us to be sure whether he was a person or not. In any case, his stories keep being present in the world that we live in. Aesop fables are one of the stories most well known by all people. Even if you have never read a story of him, you probably have heard about it or heard the story itself, because it is indeed very famous, as I'm saying. Well, there are many fables from Aesop, and they cover a lot of different topics. One may ask, what is a fable? And then I will try to describe here what I do understand as a fable. A fable is a type of story that normally uses animals as characters, and those animals have a characteristic of personification, because they act like human beings and they are characters in those stories. So they can talk, they can do some things that normally they wouldn't do, like they can understand deeply some topics here and there, and usually they give advice to others, or they um, talk with each other. Well, it is a very interesting way of storytelling because it connects us to the fables, like the animal, the characters being animals connect us, because we as humans are animals as well. Although they are not rational beings as we are, they are sensible beings as well, and thus we have a connection with them. And this connection there, it is what makes possible to create those touching stories. And well, in the fables of Aesop, there always the fable and right after the moral, which is basically the teachings that Aesop went um, to say, and he wanted to put with the story. Well, it is a great idea to, instead of only talk what you think and like only say the things that are trying to mean, he builds upon it. He creates a story with it, and that make us believe more in what it's saying, and more than that, it make us remember more easily, because we as human beings, we have ability to remember stories far easier than is to remember proverbs and sayings, for example. So we can remember the story of the cock and the Jew, which is the first story there, far easier than it is to remember that we must value things because they are useful and not because they are pretty or other people think they are valuable. This is the first story that I have here in my book, and is the first teaching, the first moral of it. Well, as I'm saying, Aesop Fables is quite interesting in these aspects. I think stories can move us as human beings like a lot, and differently of some things that are more evident. The stories sometimes have many things that we can't see, but is the message that the author tries to convey behind the story is not evident for us who are reading the story itself. And storytelling is thus quite important. There are 100 stories in this collection of mine, and I've read all of them, and I enjoy it quite a lot. I would say that my favorite story, well, I haven't think about this actually. All the stories are quite great, but I do like the story of the rural mouse and the city mouse, because it is a story that I remember reading in my childhood, so it is very um, present in my mind. It was the first time that I have read in English, but I had also read in Portuguese many years ago. And then you see there is this story, but there is also the story of the shepherd who lied. Probably is the one of the most well-known stories of Aesop, that there is a shepherd who is basically taking care of his sheep, and then he was very bored, So he decided to go there and start to shout, "There is a wolf in here! There is a wolf in here!" and start to screaming. And then the people from the city, the townsfolk, come to look after him and to try to, kill the wolf. They thought there was a wolf. And the child, who is the shepherd, laughed at them because he was just joking. And okay, the second day comes, the third, and then he decided to do it again. He decided to make this joke once more. And thus he go there, very bored again. He decided to start screaming, there is a wolf, wolf! And then the townsfolk once more goes there and find no wolf at all. And they are very angry with the shepherd, understandably. And then the days pass. Afterwards, some days after, the shepherd is there, and it actually appears an wolf. And when the wolf appears, she couldn't do anything else than start screaming, there is a wolf here. He starts to call for help. But this time, no one came. And the wolf ate all the sheep. The story reflects that it's important not to lie. And I find the story very interesting. I have read before as well, so it is very deep in my memory. And thus I think this is probably my favorite stories of the book. My favorite story of the book. And indeed, like, it is a very profound story in my opinion. Well, there we have the all this construction, and Aesop could go there and say, guys, do not lie. Lie is not cool. If you lie, you can, sometimes put yourself in danger, sometimes put others in danger, and it's morally wrong to lie. And then, indeed, one may think that would be very efficient to tell others to not to lie. And although it may be efficient in some way, would not be more efficient than to create the story behind. Because with the story, the person who listens can understand more why lying is such a bad thing. And he or she can put themselves in the place of the shepherd. Because you see, it's normal that we get bored sometimes. And it's normal that we want to do things to make the boredom go out. And the person could think, could see he or herself in the boy. And then this is possible to do. So the person puts themselves in the boy, they try to see as the boy and think, well, he's bored, what else could he do? But then they realized that this was not good at all to the boy. He lost all his sheep, the sheep of the town, like the tiny city. And indeed, it seems rather interesting, this point. Because one thing that may be occurring is that imagine if he haven't created this story. Do you think it would be it would have survived all those years? At least I don't think so. If he had simply said you should not lie and created like a notebook of proverbs or something, I think it would not have survived that long. Don't get me wrong. I think the proverbs and the sayings and the things more abstractly or more objectively are very important. And I believe that we have to do these. We have to do philosophy and do treatises on philosophy. I am a researcher of philosophy myself. But my point is, when you build a story upon an idea, it's far more likely that this story will survive because people will look at it, and when they can identify themselves in the character, that provokes empathy, and provoking it, they are able to understand the idea behind the story and take it. And then that's the point. He created those stories, and because of it, he have make this all those ideas present in the moral survive. And you see, in other types of stories, we have not the clear idea of what the author is trying to say, because normally you have the story there, but you do not know what the author was trying to say with it, was trying to convey. In the fables, however, because it is some say it's made for children, and indeed it seems um, to be created in some sense thinking about the children, and the author wants to be clear because the fables have this peculiarity. The moral is very clear in the ending of the text, so he doesn't want simply to write a story about an idea and just left it as it. He wants to create upon it, but also put the idea with it, and that's the story and the idea survive through time. Um, I found that amazing. I will talk about I will talk a little about this edition here, which I find extremely beautiful. You see, there is this cover. It's hardcover. As you can see, it's green, quite a beautiful green. It's like I don't know, a very clear green or light green. And here we have those details there, which are golden details. We have like leaves here, and then this frame there, this frame in gold with stars upon it. And then there is this part here which says classic stories for children. And then we have another frame here with this beautiful picture of the lion and the mouse, which is again it is a story within the book. In the other cover, is the front cover, is the back cover, we have again those beautiful pictures and those very beautiful leaves there. Here is, I don't know, it seems to be like a dove or something, and he's described Bath classics. And interestingly, we have here Akia Code, which is basically a place in which you can hear the audiobook of the book. So you can read it and also listen to it. And that's what I have done. I have both read and listened to it. So, the parts here, very interesting as well. They're very pretty. Here is an introduction talking about Aesop. Who was Aesop, and why are his centuries-old fables still so popular today? Phrases such as "look before you leap" and "a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush" are a part of our culture, and so are his stories. But what do you know about the writer? And then start to talk about the writer. Here all the content of the book. There are quite a lot of stories there. Quite a lot, indeed. Then another thing that's mentioned here, and it's something that I thought about as well, is how the proverbs and sayings and things that Aesop wrote are so present in our lives today. Because you see, I saw there many proverbs and sayings that I find in normal speech, and that's a thing that I've been that I've been thinking about. Look before you leap. A bird in the hand worth two in the bush. Or other morals like, let me find one. Oh, this one is very common. Do as you would be done by. Don't judge by appearances. A simple life in peace and quiet is far better than a grand life in danger. Sorry. You see, those those morals, those proverbs are very common. Well, one that I thought that a lot is, he loves best that loves last. That's very common as well. Those proverbs, they survive through time, and they're still relevant today because they talk about things that doesn't have a time and place specifically, but they do are present in our everyday life. And then it is such marvelous to look at it and think about it, because this writer, who died how long ago? Let's say 6 years BC. That's about 2060 and 600 years ago. That's a lot. 2600 years ago. That's giant. He died many years ago. This writer, or those people, I don't know, they died many years ago, but still their ideas were preserved through the stories that they have created. And the only way one can really survive through history is creating stories, because although Aesop, or the people who we think are Aesop, as the theory that we have read suggests, that those people or or this person, they exist many years ago and they died already, but somehow they still live with us because their stories keep existing, they keep being present in our day-to-day life. So that's, I think, worth mentioning. And the only thing that actually make us survive through time, survive our ideas and who we are, survive through time, is what we left to the next generations. And is indeed the stories that we've created, is indeed the things that we have written. And the two Aesop still exist even with all those years of history. If he still exists and he's still relevant today, that shows us that he was actually very good in what we did, and his ideas were actually sensible. For we see his ideas being preserved and being passed by still today. And it seems to me that the only way one can actually preserve his ideas or her ideas is if the person exists and try to survive through stories that we've created. And another point is how the writers can change history, because it's not only Aesop who changed history. Many writers have left the ideas marked in the world that we live on. What would be the Occidental world if it wasn't by Plato, Socrates, Aristotle, and many others? What would be the philosophy? What things could have gone differently? What actions we are going to take if weren't by those people? What we would be going to do? How many ideas have been lost in time that we have no record of? And how many writers have changed significantly the way that we see the world, the way that the people act, the ideas that people carry with themselves, and the ideas that people give the world? How many? It's far many to count, I believe. And we shouldn't worry that much, because in the end we are going to die and all is going to pass. But it is something magical to think about how one individual, through the writings, sometimes humble, sometimes very simple, but effective and actually good, can survive through time and through history and preserve the memories of the person, of the writer. It is magical to think about. Writing is perhaps something that guarantees our eternity, or at least that make us live a life more fruitful and longer and justify our actions. So that was the video for today, and thank you very much for watching. See you soon. Bye.